It's Friday, and that can only mean one thing. It's time for Large Format Friday. Hey, I'm your host, Mat Marrash, and if this is the first time you're stopping by the channel, be sure to check out our growing playlist of Large Format Friday episodes right above. And if you haven't subscribed yet, each and every Friday there's going to be a new upload featuring a different facet of the large format photographic process. Speaking of process, we've been talking about a lot of small little bits of large format leading up to this, but today I wanted to do an overview of the entire shoot, from setting up the sticks all the way to the point where you take the shot. If this is something you haven't done before or you're thinking about getting into large format, it can seem kind of overwhelming, but it's really not that bad. It's just a little bit different from maybe something that you've done with a digital camera or a fixed or roll film camera. Especially the shooting part. You're probably not doing as much shooting, or maybe even none. So what we want to get comfortable with today is doing the dance, getting everything set up, and practicing.
Before anything else happens, you've got to set up the tripod. This is like any other shoot you've done on a tripod, but since it's probably a heavier camera, double check that each of the legs is locked down tight. With our sticks firmly planted in the ground, let's add the camera. Here I'm attaching my camera to the quick release base using an Arca-Swiss style quick release plate. Some camera bodies will be ready for the next step as soon as they're fixed to the tripod, but many will require opening up the camera or bringing it out into a shooting position. Most field and press cameras are the latter. With the camera on the tripod and open, let's add our lens. Pick a lens that suits your creative needs and mount the lens and lens board onto the front standard of the camera. Once that's firmly in place, go ahead and open up the lens with the preview lever on the shutter. If you have a lens without a preview shutter, don't worry. You can still open the lens by using the locking cable release and bulb, B mode, or timer, T mode. Now open up the aperture all the way so you can get as much light to the ground glass as possible. Moving to the back of the camera, try to block out stray light around the ground glass with a dark cloth or dark t-shirt. Start by viewing the ground glass from about half a meter away and move in closer once you see the image. It is going to appear flipped, but that's because there's no mirror or prism in these cameras to reverse the image. Once you've got your bearings, use a magnifying loupe on the ground glass to check focus. Don't be afraid to place that loupe right on the ground glass. While you're back here, start focusing the camera. Most large format cameras will need to be unlocked to begin focusing. This camera features a rack and pinion style system, where the knobs on the left-hand side of the camera lock and unlock, and on the right-hand side drive focus. Other systems use a singular drive gear in the center of the bed or a monorail, but same rules apply. Unlock, focus, check focus, relock. Once you're in the ballpark on camera position, start applying camera movements if desired. I tend to work from front standard to rear standard, meaning I'll apply any tilts, shifts, swings, that sort of thing to the lens plane before working on the back of the camera at the film plane. With movements applied, check focus and meter the shot. Here I'm working with a spot meter where I'll need to point my meter from a position close to the lens to get an accurate representation of the light. When an exposure is reached, close down to your working aperture on the lens and carefully recheck focus to evaluate depth of field and inspect the corners. If you can see the entire circle of light coming through the lens, it can see the film. Alright, if that looks good, close the lens, set the shutter speed, cock the shutter, insert the film holder, pull the dark slide closest to the lens, and finally make your exposure. Following exposure, you'll need to flip your dark slide to indicate that the film has been exposed, then remove the film holder, label it for processing, and place it back in your bag. Congrats! You've just taken one picture. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the dance. It's unlike most camera systems you've probably used until large format, and it does require practice. There was a piece I read a long time ago by a photographer discussing the muscle memory involved in the large format process. It's not something you're going to pick up instantly, but if you want a head start, you'll need to practice. How do you practice? By doing the dance as many times as it takes. With my first large format camera, I set it up, focused, got all the way to the point of taking a picture, then tore it all down and did it over again. After about 100 times, I felt like I started to have the hang of it. When you're forcing yourself to do something 100 times, a couple of things happen. You'll stumble. Better do it now than when there's expensive film on the line. You'll optimize. Unnecessary motions weed themselves out as you struggle to complete the task faster and faster. You'll look natural with the camera. No more awkward photographer with a camera. When it comes time to shoot, you're not going to be scrambling. You'll be assembling your shot with confidence. But 100 times? Really? Well, you might not need that many, but whatever number works for you so you're not caught off guard by the actual usage of your camera. That's what you need to practice.
Okay, so wrapping up, the dance is something that we do every single time we take a large format photograph. I know I could use some fresh practice. It's hard to force yourself to get out there and shoot at least once a week, once a day, whatever it might be. Build some consistency with the camera and the practice of it, and you're gonna find yourself worrying less about the technical and where's the location of this knob, that knob, and worrying about the things that really matter in your photograph, like how's the lighting? How does my photograph make me feel? How's the composition look? Those things matter just as much as every bit of gear and technique that you've got. Hopefully you guys got something out of this today. If you have any questions about the setup and the shoot of large format or just anything in general, drop those down below in the comments. I love interacting with you guys, and so far we've kept it really positive on the channel, so let's keep that going, and we'll see you next week for more Large Format Friday.